Yeah, jamming. All right.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is the engagement panel revolution. We are going to give it a minute for people to get logged on. As we're waiting and we're jamming out to this music, everyone let us know in the chat. We're interested in what your latest music, either album, song, artist that you're into right now. If anyone has any cool new things they're listening to or something they're obsessed with. Can't think of anything new. Maybe your favorite band of all time.
I think I passed the age where I start listening to anything new anymore. Yep. Right, so all of the most recent stuff I've been listening to is probably, I don't know, 20 years old or more.
Yeah, same.
Now, of course, Lauren says Taylor Swift. Okay.
Oh yes. Anyone on the panel care to share?
Beyonce's Renaissance album that came out last summer, I listened to it on repeat all summer, and I found myself back to it this summer. It just keeps me going.
I'm in a very casual cover band, and we recently did a show that included Feel Good Inc. by the Gorillaz, so that's definitely been stuck in my head. And then The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. We have a very eclectic taste. So those two have been playing in my head a lot the last couple weeks.
Is that a local band, Aiden? I need to come check out.
Yeah, it's actually 3 of the 4 members are Feather leadership team, funny enough. And we do 1 show per year, approximately. It's a fun time. All covers.
Yeah. First I said Morrissey and then I spelled it wrong, but you guys get the idea.
What did you say?
I was trying to type Morrissey, but I was like looking at the screen, so I typed it.
About you. There's a Morrissey cover band from Miami that will come to Gainesville sometimes, and it's fun to watch.
Oh, cool. All right.
All right. We will get started. I'm going to hand it off to Bill to introduce our topic and our panelists.
Okay, cool. Did I get it right? All right, awesome. So look, this is today's topic, engagement revolution panel. This is our marketing team went into high gear, like titling this thing. So it's engagement revolution panel, and we're going to tell you how to outshine your competition with respect to engagement. So you guys know, if you've seen any of our content before, we talk about engagement constantly. This is going to be a little bit of a twist on that. We got an kind of an expert panel here. So I'm going to kind of sit back most of the time with my feet on my desk and let these guys teach you about what they've learned and their specific approach to engagement. So on the agenda, we're going to meet the panel, which we'll get into that pretty quick. We have some introductory materials and some polls, maybe just one poll actually, but some audience participation things as well. And we're gonna do discussion. So I'm gonna seed some questions. The panel is going to answer them, but I purposely want this to be a participant discussion as well. So what I mean by that is I want everyone on the call. We got a lot of people here today. I want you to add in your comments. I want you to add your questions, and you put those in the Q&A. I will add those to the list, and we'll get to those time permitting at the end. So there'll be Q&A, but really that's going to be kind of throughout. So maybe not a formal Q&A. And at the very end, we've got a couple of resources that we can point you to, and maybe we'll give our expert panelists a chance to give you some pro tips or some key takeaways at the end. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the panelists. And I'm going to start with Dan.
Hi, everybody. Dan Stevens, president of Workerbee TV. We're a multimedia platform company that really allows you to fold all of your video, audio, articles, webinars into one spot on your website to make engagement frictionless. We're also a content creation company, so we can produce everything from a promo video to a full documentary and everywhere in between. So between those two things, we help associations with their programming to maximize both engagement and revenue.
Awesome, thanks, Dan. Hey, so what's just round numbers, like how many of your clients, how many use the content creation side versus just the engagement side?
That's a great question. I would say about 80% of our clients are in need of some help with their content. There's a few that are big enough that can do it all on their own, but whether it be at an event or just, maybe they need a podcast series done or they need something unique, but I would say about 80%.
Cool. And what if I don't know what I need? Do you help with that as well, like the strategy piece?
We do. One of the great things about measuring digital engagement is you get to see what works. And so you can start to see the patterns of what works across different demographics, different types of associations, and where some of that low-hanging fruit is to really differentiate yourself from others.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. And let's go to Alexa, who is on mute, but about to correct that.
Yeah, it's par for the course, right? Hi, I'm excited to be here. Alexa Cade, CEO of Clouder, where community engagement, connection, and collaboration are at the foundation of our product suite. Also find that these topics are transformative in redefining the membership experience. I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today. Clouder provides organizations with a place to meet members where they are, which is primarily their phones via a dedicated white labeled mobile app. We also view ourselves as a sounding board to many of our customers and prospects when it comes to things like digital transformation and member engagement. These two things can carry vastly different meanings from one association to the other. So our goal is to take the product we provide and give associations a tool that will aid in overcoming their member engagement and communication challenges.
Awesome. So what, probably there's a long list, so give us just the top few, but what are the main things that the end users usually, what are the most popular things to do on the Clouder app?
Yeah, it's primarily providing like timely notifications via the newsfeed, push notifications. Of course, there's the event module that houses all of their meetings, everything from their big annual conference all the way down to webinars, lunch and learns. It's really intended to be a sort of one-stop shop for the member to engage with the association in all of the different areas that they provide value to their members.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's go to Brianne Wheeler.
Hello, everyone. I'm really honored to be here in such great company today. I'm the marketing director for PropFuel, which is an email and SMS engagement platform built for associations. And I think important to this conversation today is, while I work for PropFuel now, most of my experience is on the association side. So I worked for an AMC for many years, taking care of marketing and communications for clients mostly in the healthcare association space. And then also and worked for the Texas Medical Association separate from that. So my perspective, my outlook on engagement comes directly from my experience doing this for associations for years. And it's just a little bit more about PropFuel. We are on email and SMS, and really it's it's a different way of communicating and engaging that helps to solve some of the chronic engagement issues that we have. Member data being missing or inaccurate, attention. We all know how difficult it is to get the attention of our members and get them to act. And then also just perceptions of value of the membership itself. And the way we do that is by asking questions. So the association asks a question of the membership, and what happens from there can vary greatly, all the way from just getting them what they need immediately to alerting a staff person to contact them about whatever that individual needs. So that methodology that we use for all of the campaigns is called Ask, Capture, and Act.
All right, awesome. So really quickly, one of the things that helps me is I kind of look at PropFuel as sort of overlapping with email marketing and then kind of overlapping with surveys a little bit as well. I don't know if you get that sort of question a lot, but can you sort of kind of position PropFuel as it relates to those two things, just so we get a better sense?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So in the way of email marketing or even other marketing communication tools, we integrate with many systems that associations use today. So it's not competing. It's really they're designed to work together. And so whereas you are really focused more on broadcast communications, one-way directional broadcasts with either email, just straight emails, or marketing automation workflows, this is designed to be more of a two-way tool. So you're not just sending something out and hoping that it sticks and broadcasting information. You are asking a question with the intent of capturing new information directly from the voice of the member. And then in the way of surveys, of course, that is a way to capture data from the voice of the member. However, with surveys, they're absolutely useful. Again, it's not a competition or better than, but PropFuel's a little bit different in that surveys are typically historical, so they're aggregate. So you're collecting data from, say, the entire membership. What you're doing when you ask a single question in PropFuel is getting that information directly and being able to act on it immediately. So it's just a different type of communication.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, both really important, obviously, for engagement. So Dan, I see there's a question. I'm gonna let Aiden introduce himself, and then we'll get to that question right at the end there. Okay, Aiden.
All righty, all. I'm Aiden Augustine. I'm the co-founder and chief revenue officer here at Feather. Feather is a marketing platform specifically designed for associations and other forms of nonprofits. And so we are an all-in-one marketing platform. In the distinction that Regis made, we do have broadcast email and marketing automation, as well as what most people know Feather for, which are our digital advertising tools, including Facebook and Instagram ads, as well as display advertising, video advertising. And then we have landing pages, forms, website analytics. So a full marketing platform designed to kind of replace something like a MailChimp or Constant Contact, or potentially even a HubSpot. So that's us, with a focus on omni-channel campaigns. So you can have digital ads that trigger off of website visits, web pop-ups based on an email open, emails that trigger based on someone clicking an ad. So all these channels working better together and running that kind of omni-channel surround sound campaign across different digital marketing avenues, all from one place. That's Feather.
Awesome. Thanks, Aiden. Yeah. I think at least from what we see, like most association pros, that they know Feather from the kind of timely ad that comes on in the or that goes up in their sponsors or their clients, right? Once they've visited an event page or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely what we're best known for, but and then over the last couple of years, I've more broadened into the email marketing automation and the full suite.
Awesome. Okay. So I had a question really quick before we move on to quickly introduce A2. There's a question for Dan. It says, does your firm help associations identify content areas and help develop the content, or mostly support the delivery and capture?
We actually do both. So we spend a lot of time helping people with content creation and coming up with a calendar that makes sense. In many cases, once they find that sweet spot, actually helping them brand those series into something where people see it like a channel, and where that channel can have a cadence and a predictability, which is one of the opportunities for engagement.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Great question. Keep those coming. And thanks, Dan. Okay, great. So really quick, I think a lot of you know A2, so we won't spend a lot of time here, but we're an analytics platform vendor. We're the developers of a product called Acumen, and Acumen kind of fits very closely with all the products and all the sort of topics that we will discuss today. And we'll kind of throw in a little bit here and there, but we've been doing this it's a long time. We focus only on analytics, and we only work with associations. So we'll leave it at that for the time being. And I want to go to our poll, and this is a pretty simple one, right? The question is simple, maybe the interpretation not as much. So what percentage of your current members or customers do you consider highly engaged? A few people are saying don't know. If you're saying you don't know, is it that you don't know because you haven't really identified what is highly engaged, or you haven't, like, other people in your association know, but you just don't yourself. All right, so we got pretty good participation. Give it like another 10 seconds or so. Haven't identified, right? Okay. Yeah, so that is a topic maybe for another webinar, and we have a lot of those on, sort of measuring and scoring engagement and all of that. So that's kind
That
of
would have been an
related.
interesting poll question too, whether
Yeah.
that definition exists clearly within a team.
Okay, so for the benefit of those that are watching on the recording, we have 20%, say less than 10% of their members or customers are highly engaged. We have just under 30% saying 10 to 20 and 20 to 30. Smaller percentage saying 30 to 50 or 50 plus. So if you're in the 50 plus, I would love to hear who you are. Stand up and raise your hand, and we'll all clap for you, and would love to hear how you've managed to do that. So anyone have a comment on that? Think any of those numbers surprising to you?
If anything, I'm surprised it's that high, and I guess is that these people who are attending these webinars to learn are the people that are doing the best job. So we see on average that number skewing a little lower. So I think this is pretty good. That doesn't mean there's not room for improvement. There always is, right? But not too bad.
Any thoughts, Alexa?
I was just nodding my head at the haven't defined, which I think is part of what this panel had been discussing and prep for, this call and what does a highly engaged member look like?
Yeah. So for what it's worth, we do a lot of calls and a lot of content around engagement scoring. And then we have, of course, we have clients that are using engagement scoring inside Acumen. And I would say that it's definitely below 20%, the ones that are highly engaged. And I would say it's closer to 10 for the most part among our clients that actually score. And so that can either mean one of two things. Either you need to improve things that you're doing to engage, or it might mean that your model is could be tweaked a little bit. So if you're in that camp that say you don't know, not to worry, right? There are lots of ways to understand that and to start to score it so that you can improve it. But if you're in the business of growing engagement, which I think you are, then you're in the right place. So to that end, I want to ask you for some input in the chat. And here's the question: what is your primary strategy for growing member or customer engagement? Right. So think about how many of those members or customers are in that highly engaged bucket right now, and what are you doing as an association to move more into that stage, right, or that bucket? Now this one, it's I left this question open-ended purposely, and so it could be an actual strategy, it could be a tactic, it could be a specific activity, right? Maybe you've identified that one product or that one service that's kind of like a gateway, right, into high engagement or high connectedness with the association. And anything you're doing along those lines, I would be curious to hear about in the chat. And for our panelists, what do you hear, right? I mean, you're talking to associations a lot of times. Does anything come to mind as something that you hear most often in terms of a strategy for growth of engagement?
One of the things that I've heard and experienced a lot of is we don't know what else to do. And that is a good starting point, because at least you know that there's a problem and that you need to go address it. So sometimes, a lot of the time, I think associations tend to do the same things over and over again and hope that something changes. And okay, we sent out this communication, we sent 7 or 8 reminders about renewal. Clearly they received the message, but there's some disconnect there. So just recognizing that you may not have a plan, I think is part of it.
Okay, anyone else want to comment?
Yeah, I think that speaks to a question of, are people not engaging because they don't know, right? It's an awareness challenge, or are they not engaging because they don't care? Meaning like the value proposition is not currently very compelling to them, and how that's important to pull apart, right? Whether through a tool like Prop Fuel or surveys, or is it through analytics or just talking to members? But yeah, the challenge there of knowing if you're not seeing the participation rate or the engagement rate you'd like, is it because we're not effectively reaching them with marketing communications, or is it because that's actually an indictment of whatever the messaging or the value proposition or the programs might be?
Yeah.
Important thing to clarify.
Awesome. Yeah, that's again, I think I'll be saying this a lot today. That's again a topic that could be a whole other webinar, is how to build and improve on your value proposition. I think we've actually done that one. Lots of great stuff coming in the chat. I see a lot of mention about education as a tactic, professional development, and then some of the things coming in now are a little bit more higher level, like on the strategy side. So this was a suggestion, I think it was Dan that suggested this when we were talking about what to do in the webinar. And every webinar nowadays talks about AI on some level. So just as a quick aside, I wanted to ask AI, what does the large language models, right? What do they think are the great ways to grow member engagement in your association? So this is the question that I put into a couple of the popular AI tools, and I'll share the results really quickly. So it was a little bit, and probably my prompt could use some work, and that again, a topic for another day maybe. But so this is what Bart had to say, right? It's a little bit higher level, right? Personalized communications. I think we hear that a lot. Member-to-member engagement. So whether it's through a virtual community or events, right? We saw that a lot. I think this one is important, right? I bet Alexa would agree. Make it easy for your members to get involved, right? It has to be convenient for them to engage, and so things like having the content, an opportunity sort of served back up to you to engage in something that you'd missed the first time. Having a micro survey that's a single click that you can answer and prompt some kind of action. Of course, being able to engage through a mobile app as opposed to going into the website and logging in and all of that. So I thought Bard did a pretty good job with this one. Not a comment on the quality of these services, but I think Bing missed the mark completely. Again, not a knock on Growth Zone. That was their main source of this, but it didn't really answer the question. In my view, it was just talking about growing, membership mostly, that you can read for yourself. Although fresh and relevant content, I think, is always a good thing. For me, the best of the three, this is ChatGPT. So it gave a much longer answer. And I said, well, can you summarize this down into the bullet points? And this is what it came up with, right? Communication and personalization. So there's that segmenting, the networking and collaboration. So that's kind of similar to what Bard came up with. And then the idea of rewarding engagement. So we've talked about this in some previous talks, whether you should gamify certain elements of your engagement, have leaderboards and things like that. And I do think that's a good idea from on an individual activity kind of basis, right? So if you're into scoring, I wouldn't gamify the whole score, but if you want to incentivize people to participate more in your community or to pass more courses or something like that, that's probably a good idea. Okay, so all of this is part of what we call the engagement journey or the customer journey. You've probably seen this this graphic before with us, but the idea is you have initial contact with some individual or some organization. They're interested and you want to move them kind of up the commitment curve, right? So they become active and maybe connected. And you might name it different things and have different different labels for these buckets, but essentially it looks something like this. Or you've probably seen one that looks more like this, right? It's like the stage, it's a funnel sometimes, or it's some kind of chevron looking chart like this, where they become aware, they're in a consideration stage, ultimately they convert or purchase, and then there's the retention and advocacy piece. And very often there's something that goes like this, and then you'll see these dots on it, and the dots correspond to the touch points. And so if you think about this, there's a good reason why we invited the specific people and these specific products and companies to this, because these are all of the way, not all of the ways, but many of the best ways to engage members and kind of move them along this this curve from awareness to conversion or purchase, and ultimately to advocacy. And of course, something like Acumen in the background is kind of collecting all this data. And if you think of it as a cycle or iterations, then you can improve on it with all the data that you collect each time. Okay. So Misha says, has anyone found any difference in conversational engagement around topics with higher negative sentiment scores versus topics with higher positive scores? Yeah, so I guess that assumes that you'd have to be measuring sentiment. So we'll leave that open for the group, but any of our panelists have a thought about that? Higher negative versus positive sentiment by topic.
So I'll just say Prop Fuel has some sentiment we have it in each one of our campaigns. So each one of the campaigns will kind of give you a general vibe of positive or negative. I think anyone measuring that on this level, it is incredibly impressive, actually. I don't have any good examples of it, but Misha, I bet I can find one for you.
Yeah, so I think it's anecdotal. So I mean, we don't have nearly enough data to make it scientific, but I think and it's very specific to organizations. But you know, we see a lot of it's not really that negative, but it's mostly around event stuff, right? That it's like, you know, the event was inconvenient, or you know, or something like that. I don't see a lot of discussion about like really value proposition related things with the association, right? Like they're doing things wrong, or the kind of things that would make where you'd make major business decisions based on. But again, it's kind of not really enough data to be representative, probably. Okay, so that's what we had in terms of introductory, right? So we got about 30 minutes left. Now I'm going to go to our panel discussion, and we've got a few things teed up, but I think there will be time, and I would really love to hear from the audience if there are things that we'd want to add, and you can add those to the Q&A. So I've got a few things in there already. Okay, so let's start with this. How would you define engagement in one sentence? I'm going to give the audience a chance to go in and give this one a shot. But I want our panelists to answer, obviously. So I'm going to start with Bree on this one.
Okay, my sentence, this is so hard to get it down to one sentence, but I think that engagement comes down to the human connection, in this case, between an association and each of its members. Even when you're, you know, sometimes it's association to member, but really what it comes down to is how are we connecting, whether it's in person or around a piece of content, or just even reading a story that is relevant to whatever their challenges are. It really comes down to humans connecting with other humans, and associations all have a cause and a purpose, and it's to serve the needs of individuals. So that's what it comes down to for me.
All right, Dan, what do you think?
I think of it as an ongoing, a continuous interaction between the member and the association in exchange for meaningful value. And the challenge is that meaningful value might mean different things to different segments or to different people. But at the end of the day, people vote with their time and their wallet.
Yeah, well said. Alexa?
No, I'm not on mute. I define it as meaningful, effective, and consistent participation in and among an audience with shared interests, which I kind of feel like is a hybrid between what Bree and Dan said, the human connection, but in return for, you know, something that is valuable.
Okay.
I think about participation rate of the industry with the association. So at simplest would be how many potential members are there, and of that, how many are members, and then participation rate of members with a given program. So of our current members, how many attend the annual meeting, how many actually engage with our newsletter, how many are watching our videos we're putting out, whatever that might be. So in participation rate, industry with association, and of active members with programs or content.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. So mine is probably a little bit of all of these. It's, if I had to boil it down to one thing, it's an exchange of value, right? It's exchange of value between the members and the customers and the association, and all of those things are kind of subset to that. If anyone has a different definition, or one of these in particular resonated with you, then feel free to go in and share it with us. Okay. So next is about KPIs, right? So we always talk about KPIs, we talk about metrics, and, you know, we kind of kept this mostly high level and not down in the weeds on how we measure this sort of stuff. But what are the most important metrics or KPIs that you think are important, right, for an association to track, and based on your opinion and what you see like successful associations doing? So I'm going to give Dan first crack at this one.
If you think of, I think it was actually mentioned in the chat earlier, but engagement is partially the content, whatever that content is, whether it's a physical event or a webinar or a video or a member service, but it's also the experience. And is that experience frictionless? Is it easy? And if we bring those two worlds together, then we become like Amazon, right? Where it's Amazon easy, and we can have both content and an experience that is really simple. And especially for younger members who are tend to be a little more passive as far as owning their own journey, they've gotten used to algorithms driving their experience, driving them to content. And if we're not doing that as an association, they're waiting for us and we're waiting for them.
All right. Yeah, awesome. I totally agree. Aiden.
There we go. Different stages of the funnel. So as you pointed out before, at awareness, it's how many people are we reaching? You know, are they making it to our site, for example, right? In the nurturing stage, it's the repeat visitors, it's consuming content. At activation conversion, it's actually signing up. So I think ultimately these are conversion rates at each step, but I would get back to your visual of this, the steps of a funnel or stages of a life cycle. Maybe it's more like a wheel. You can visualize it however you'd like, but there's a different answer to get someone from one step to the next: awareness, to that mid-funnel nurturing, to activation or conversion. And then in an ongoing manner, right, how do you get them to do so again for another program or another point throughout the year? So I think of it as conversion rates at different steps of the journey.
Okay. Bree?
Yes, so we have so many in marketing communications. We have the tools now to measure a lot, and it's so important. And it's these metrics we didn't used to have access to even when my marketing career started. And so they are very important, and they're good indicators, and they're good directionally. But what I think is also incredibly important to look at is more of that. This may not come as a surprise to a lot of you who know me in Prop Fuel, but more of that, open-ended information, more of the voice of the member, more of what are you thinking? What do you intend to do? Sometimes those come out cleanly in data so that you can just measure: this many people said yes, this many people said no, this many people said send me the recording if we're talking about a webinar. But then there are other instances in which I think it's important to look at what members are sharing with you and how they're acting, and not just, did they click on something? Because in reality, you don't actually know why they clicked. And so asking them is a really good way to do that. And so sometimes that's quantitative and sometimes that's more qualitative.
Okay, awesome. And Alexa?
Yeah, so I think similar to everyone else, but we're looking at the types of users and what they're accessing, from what you put in the application itself, which helps us work with our customers and prospects, I think, to define, support, and or change their strategy in and around member engagement. We can help them see what content is working, get feedback on event experiences, and directly ask membership what they want more of from their association. And then by learning, what is working and looking at these metrics and KPIs, and as importantly, what's not working, what isn't getting eyeballs on it, what isn't getting interacted with, you can build on your successes and drop the aspects of the game plan that might not be working as expected. Having an app interface backend sort of system to see how they're engaging with you in that way and engaging with each other can, be really informative to driving the strategy and or pivoting if necessary.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay,
If I just add to that, there's a question in the chat from Dwayne that says, I'm associated with a small volunteer association. We have a smallish budget, and is there a strategy we should be looking at? And it reminded me, as you were just chatting, that we should weight these factors. Volunteering is actually a high form of engagement. And so typically, I used to be the international president of the Entrepreneurs Organization. The entire model is run by volunteers. And yes, there's a staff, but the chapters are run by volunteers. The boards are all volunteers. And sometimes those are actually easier associations to move into an engagement model than those who are waiting for content. So weighting things like that and volunteerism as an example is an opportunity to really help. And on the question earlier about sentiment, back when I was international president, if we had negative sentiment, that's our next volunteer. we gave them a job. And so that became an opportunity to let them solve the problem. And again, get them to be part of the solution instead of just throwing grenades over the wall. So
awesome. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Dan. Anybody else have a comment about strategies that are specific for small staff, small budget type associations? I mean, I don't, not to get into pricing or anything like that. I don't think any of the tools that you guys represent are wildly expensive or anything like that. But just say that we can't really afford to make an investment in tools. What kinds of things can apply to works like that? I see Bree's shaking her head, so I'm going to get it to you first.
My brain is, and everything is kind of spinning in here, swirling. I've dealt with this before and just not feeling like I have the resources or staff to engage the way that I feel like I need to. And this may sound overly simple, but I think it's sometimes about getting back to basics and just saying, okay, where's my biggest opportunity here? It's not just like a blanket approach, but let's take volunteerism, for example. Can we, do we know who to talk to as it relates to volunteer opportunities? Do we know who's likely to come to the conference? And if we don't, we should find that out. And there are a lot of different ways to do that that don't involve expensive software, or not even expensive, but just taking on another platform. I know that's something that is really challenging for associations too, is okay, we just switched our AMS or whatever it may be. Now we're adding something else on. So there are a lot of free, and affordable resources that you can use, and even social media. I mean, that's one of the best ways to kind of gauge generally how people feel about something or what they might be interested in, whatever it is. So there are a lot of ways. I don't know if that was very articulate, but I think that there's so many options for us today that we didn't used to have, and you just have to go find them.
Agreed. Anything to add, Aiden or Alexa?
There's never a silver bullet. You just got to test and see what works for your specific audience, membership, industry. Yeah, I think that's my main response. And I recognize that could be a challenge when you are a smaller staff, but thinking of it as tests to learn from, is I think my main.
I think for most of the approaches and strategies that we're talking about, there's a low or no cost way to kind of approximate what we're doing. And it might take a little bit more manual effort, but can definitely work for small associations or small staff. So I see Miguel talked about NPS. That comes up a lot. Just out of curiosity, just like another informal sort of in the chat type of poll. If your association is using NPS, be curious to know about that and what has your experience been. So that's a question and a topic that comes up from time to time in these discussions. Okay, so this is actually a good segue from the small staff and the metrics and KPIs. Next thing I want to ask is, when you think about engagement, what opportunities are missed, right? What are the things that we're not maybe getting quite right? And when I say we, I just mean the industry in general. Like, what do you hear? Many times, clients will come to us already with a knowledge of things where they need to improve. But just for the benefit of the group, what are some things that we could all be more mindful of or work on a little bit? And I'll start with Alexa on this one.
Oh, putting me on the spot first. So I think, generally speaking, missed opportunities is a conversation that I'm having regularly with a lot of our customers and prospects, but also on webinars like this, people in the industry. I think we're all talking about this with each other. And kind of going back to some of the points that we've brought up already, I think we need to start by looking at and understanding the challenges and goals to define what engagement means. And that could be slightly different for each association, given size, staff, budget, volume. And then I think we can come up with a strategy that helps meet those objectives. And that could be a tool, that could be a free service, that could be partnering with everyone on this webinar. I think it totally just will vary depending on the needs of that association. We often hear we want our members to engage more, and that's hard to strategize around and put KPIs to. So, there is no magic wand. There's no easy button that makes people engage. I think that we need to really clearly define success, and then we can figure out how to measure what's working and what's not working, and provide avenues to make the necessary changes or to enforce what we're doing that we know is working.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's related to Dan's point earlier. So if you think about your priorities and what you want to do first, if you have to break things up, that's very closely related to the topic of weighting, right? If you were thinking about making a model, like what would be the most important thing? Do you really want to focus on growing your volunteers, or do you really want to focus on emphasizing your professional development? Because that if we can just get them engaged in professional development, that leads to a lot of other things. So all of those answers are are available to you with maybe with some effort in some cases to uncover it. So okay, so Bree, what are we missing? What are we doing wrong?
Hands down, for the last 10 to 15 years, what I've seen is there's too much talking and not enough listening. And
Okay.
if I look back to every single challenge I've had in trying to connect with members, I had an opportunity to listen and I didn't. And so that goes for everything from when somebody first joins the organization, listening to how they want communications to be delivered to them and how they want their publication. Do they want it in print or digitally? It's, are they receiving value throughout the year? That's a terrible question to ask after somebody's already left the organization. It's great to ask when they're 6 months in. So, and then around events too, it's, do you intend to come? And if not, why? And I have a million other examples, but every single challenge that you have, I think if you look to the member you'll find your answers.
Okay. Now, suppose I don't, maybe I don't have, Prop Fuel and have really low response rate on my emails. Is it, what if we just ask, we call, we do informal surveys and things like that? Is that, we can't do that necessarily at scale, but is that a substitute, or could that be a proxy for, for something that's more, I don't know, statistically significant, I guess, right?
Sure. Yeah, I think it depends on what it is. I remember one of my associations I worked for, I used to do this elaborate survey post event. And then it would take months for us to look at it and decide if we were going to change anything for the following year. And it just takes too long. So there's some other strategies you might be able to do. Grab a group on site to see what they think, so that it's immediate and you have the answers and you can do something with it quickly. It just really depends on what it is. And then, yeah, with lapsed members, even calling is great. You know, that's low hanging fruit. If somebody just lapsed last week and you have no idea why, and you don't know why they're coming back, those are the people to call.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Aiden and Dan, anything to add? What
ahead,
were we
Dan.
missing?
Well, I think structure is one of the lowest hanging fruit opportunities is to create more member-to-member interaction. Peers love learning from peers. And, you know, we see it at the conferences and we see it, you know, in certain scenarios, but how can you create structure which takes less effort, you know, instead of putting the effort on the backs of the staff, creating the structures where members can interact more easily with each other. One association I work with, their number 1 and number 2 member benefits are all run by members. And they have members can join very much like a discussion group to a group, but they can actually post, I would like to do a webinar, a small live event on this topic. And if the topic is vetted, they get a little bit of budget and they actually can run webinars. And they're running as many as 20 a month, which is complementing those niche topics that each segment wants. So it's, you know, for members by members, very little staff effort. Our team actually manages all of the infrastructure for the event, so the staff don't even have to do that. And we're talking 5 out of 5 on the scoring. And so it doesn't have to be a lot of money. You can take and do, you know, little videos from the best of those to create a member insight series. So now you can take that same content, repurpose it into a member insight series and put it out by member or by chapter or by theme or by topic. And you can then you can put that into a podcast and you can then put it into an article format. And all of a sudden you can start to have the members feeling like they can truly own their experience. So I would look for more structures. Once the structure is set up that allows members to bump into other members, they'll create their own magic.
Awesome.
And if I could just add to that, what I
Sure.
love about that example with the webinars that are created by members is just the opportunity for leadership there. And that's something that might be a surprising value for members, is the opportunity to lead, and that extends into their careers. So that's one of my, and I totally agree with you too on reusing content. I know it's so easy to it's easy to repurpose if you just think about what the different formats you can use it for. So I love both of those.
Awesome. Anything to add, Aiden?
Yeah, I would come at this from a different angle and just say over-reliance on email as the only or primary way to get in front of people. And then that results in, again, kind of trying to disentangle, are people not engaged because what you have isn't attractive or just because they don't know about it? I think our observation is there's an over-reliance on broadcast email as the only or primary channel of distribution. So, so opportunities being missed, potentially using some other channels, whether that's text and SMS, which I think was mentioned earlier, digital advertising, which is certainly something we help a lot of associations do, but just trying to reach your audience in different channels and ideally across multiple, getting back to that, omni-channel surround sound type of campaign. So I think that's both the thing doing wrong and the opportunity missed, over-reliance in email as opposed to additional or multi-channel engagement.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That's all great answers. A couple of things that, as you guys were talking through, there's just a few tips that I would want to recommend. One is about the member content creation. I mean, that sounded like a pretty unique example. The members are like almost competing, to create content and post it. So we don't see that as often, but if you can find a way to incentivize members to do that, it's massively beneficial to creating connected and loyal members that, connect with the value proposition and all of that. And secondly, and we don't, surprisingly, for as many associations that have communities, virtual communities, surprisingly few of them have anyone that's spending any real amount of time to manage that community. And if you're spending the money on a community and you don't have someone managing it, then that's a mistake. I think you're missing out on a good opportunity. If you ask any member, if you ask any association, they'll all tell you that this peer-to-peer connection is really important, and whatever you can do in a community manager is a really inexpensive and it's kind of low effort way to facilitate that. It's if you're not doing that, it's a missed opportunity. And then what I would say is in terms of what I see some are doing wrong, it's kind of like overthinking it, right? If I had to, is that especially when you're just in the beginning, it's like everyone wants to jump to this like really nuanced and computation of engagement, which we do scoring and all that, which is great, but just remember that it's really directional in nature, and the point is to grow engagement. And is it really that important if Dan's score is a 74 or 76? It's really not. And so the name of it is, finding ways to connect. Okay. So to wrap things up, improving engagement, growing it is kind of top of mind for all of us and everybody on the call. So if we can just do one thing, right? We're getting started, or we just have limited resources or whatever. What's your number one tip to boost engagement? We'll go to Aiden first.
Experiment. Give yourself permission to, get permission to from your boss, argue for it if you need to, give your team permission to if you're in the position of authority, but having a mindset of testing and treat something that's a test different than the main thing. So having some amount of time, budget set aside explicitly, we're going to try, we're going to learn. And if this thing fails, that's still a good thing that we learned from. I think that approach of experimentation and testing.
I would add that to the list of things that are missed, because I don't see that happening, in the most cases. Okay, right. Alexa, what do you think?
I'm probably going to sound like a broken record at this point, but I think it's coming up with a clear definition of what engagement means to your organization and how you're going to define success around it, how you're going to track it and measure it. And then you can go forward into the world and find tools and solutions and vendors that align with that to help you meet that mission. And to Aiden's point, test.
Okay, awesome. Bree.
Stop the guesswork. It's really the harder route to sit at your desk and guess about what everybody wants and needs, and just go find out.
Just ask, stop, listen more, right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, and Dan, one tip, you can do one thing to improve engagement. What's it going to be?
Well, I think, remove friction wherever you can in that engagement process. Make it simple to find it, consume it, and then act on it. And so just like social media is done, make it really simple.
All right. Perfect. All right. Carolyn says, capitalize on every opportunity to listen to members. Be curious about their experience, right? I bet Bree would agree with that. Okay, so we got a few more minutes. Want to just open it up to those that are listening in. Is there something that you feel like your association is kind of missing out on? Is there a specific area of improvement that after today's discussion you would want to prioritize going forward? Share that with the group. That'd be great. I will turn the screen back on. No takers. Some of us only said we had less than 10% highly engaged. There must be something that we want to improve on.
Bill, I liked what you said about not overthinking it. I think that we all do that no matter what role we're in, is we think it has to be complex and difficult. And sometimes there are easy ways to get there that don't feel like it has to be in a big plan, or it has to be, you know, a 2-year-long process. It's baby steps sometimes.
For sure, for sure. Ideas on how to encourage other staff to be interested in engaging members.
Well, this is a good one, because, you know, members don't care about departments, they care about experience. And often each
That should be on a
department
T-shirt.
is communicating independently to the member, instead of it being a curated content calendar across the departments, so that we're not, as Aidan said, over emailing or over communicating in one area. We're balancing our content calendar over those big buckets of inform, educate, and inspire, you know, and if you can do all of those, and that's how you bring everybody back to how do we measure success. And whether it's coming from the education department, or the marketing department, or the advocacy department, we're all having an impact on engagement, and we can all see the effects of it. So think of it as every department owning a few channels on your website and in your mediums. And then, but to the member, they find all their channels in one spot.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that that we've seen useful there is, not, again, I said not to overthink it, but if you have dashboards or something that's accessible to everyone, where you're monitoring stuff like that, like trends in engagement or trends in activities, so that something that everybody sees and it's part of their daily routine to monitor things like that, it's easy to lose sight of it if you're not in a member facing, right, or member services part of the organization. So it's a little reminder, right, that those kind of things are kind of everyone's responsibility. Okay.
I'll throw out one more if we have time, and that is, and Bree touched on it earlier, there's a lot we can learn from social media. You know, I mean, they drip content out continuously. We tend to organize it and blast it out. You can tell how fresh the content is. If I come to your website, does it feel stale? Does it look like it's changed in the last year or last month or whatever? You know, or can I tell what's new? And instead of being able to connect after I consume content to be able to comment on it, you know, in most websites, I have to go after I consume the content, go into a completely different section on the website so I can then go into a discussion group. How do we bring those things together the way social media has? They've set the bar on how easy it is to remove friction and create engagement. So look for some of those lessons.
All right. Yeah, we had a good comment about members wanting to engage with their peers more than with the staff. And yeah, I look at that as a good sign, right? If that's the case, I mean, the peer-to-peer connection and like the concentration of knowledge and all of that, I think is the unique value, you know, that associations still have over all the competing, you know, providers of you know, professional development and other things. So I would look at that as a good sign. So just really quick, there's up next, right? The MMCC is coming up. Everyone, all of the companies here will be participating, and everyone have a booth, I think, at MMCC. So you can see some of the faces here are people that are representing their companies at that conference. And just a quick plug for the pre-conference, where we're going to talk about some cool stuff, right? It's going to be the obligatory AI discussions. I'm going to be doing a session on predictive analytics, which is kind of a good, it's a good example of something that can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be, right? So all these things we talked about, there are cheaper and easier ways to approximate some of the same results that you can get from things that are complex. So that's on the 20th, and then the regular conference is the 21st onwards. So fireside chat is going to be really amazing as well. We've got some kind of heavy hitters in the industry there, so this is going to be well worth it. So it's a couple of hours, and if I think that would be well worth anyone's time. This is the engagement scoring. This is just a quick how-to book. If you're wondering, how to do that or where to get started, this might be something that you could take a look at. That is for free on our site. And I think this is our last one. This is 100 questions. This is from Prop Fuel. And I have to admit, I haven't actually seen this one. Bree, you want to tell us what that is really fast?
Sure. Yep. So we have a 4-part email series that asks you about your challenges and what types of campaigns you want to learn about. And it's in the Prop Fuel platform. So you get to see a little bit about what it looks like when you receive something from a campaign in Prop Fuel. And then at the end of it, there's an ebook with over 100 questions that you can ask members, from everything from acquisition to lapsed and all use cases in between, NPS, everything.
Awesome. Okay, guys, thank you so much. It was awesome. I learned a lot. I appreciate all of your time. Encourage all of the listeners to visit. If you don't know about Feather or Worker Bee or Cloud or Prop Fuel, encourage you to take a look at them. All great tools that can really help you build your member or your customer engagement. So thanks everyone for joining us, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks everybody.
Thanks for hosting us.
Take care.
Yes, thank
Cheers,
you.
all.
Hey, guys.
Bye.